All right. Thanks everyone for joining. We'll give it about 20, 30 seconds just for people to start joining. But thanks again for joining today. And we're excited to talk to you about our new headless launch, which covers the release of two new capabilities, our CLI as well as our platform MCP. And it is always interesting to see where everyone is dialing in from. So feel free to drop it in the chat. Seems like we already have New Hampshire represented. Cool. Well, we can get started here. We're 1 minute past the hour. As I mentioned, we're going to be talking about the headless launch today. We're very excited to do so. My name is Chris Ferraro. I'm on the product marketing team here at Celigo. I've been in the iPaaS space coming on 8 years now. Here at Celigo, my core focus is on our AI portfolio, which includes some of these headless capabilities we're talking about and bringing them to market. So very happy to talk to you about that today. Rodolfo, would you want to just do a quick intro on yourself and sort of the Bring IT organization?
Sure thing, Chris. Thank you. Hey, everybody. My name is Rodolfo Santana. I am based out in Brazil, São Paulo. I'm part of Bring IT organization. So Bring IT is basically a NetSuite implementation company. And together with those implementations, we know that a high percentage comes together with integrations, right? And here at the company, I'm leading the integrations team in a worldwide manner. I have around 18 years of experience working with ERPs and integrations and such. And I will be sharing a little bit of our experience with using Celigo and AI Allied together for building our integrations today.
Great. Thank you for that. And I think everyone will be excited to see the hands-on experience because your team is actually living and breathing and using the platform every day. So we're going to start higher level, and then we're going to get into tangibly some of the use cases that Rodolfo is leveraging Celigo for when it comes to our CLI. But first, we're going to break into a quick poll, and it's relevant to our headless capabilities. So where would you all prefer to build and manage your integrations and automations? So what we mean by that is through what interface. So there's a few options. There's our platform UI, there's a terminal/IDE, which might be more relevant for developers, LLM for AI first users, or maybe there's a combo of all three of those, or maybe there's another interface we haven't thought of. So please respond in the poll. And maybe a quick question to you, Rodolfo. Where do you prefer to build when it comes to your team building and implementing automations on Celigo?
Yeah, that's a great question. But my personal preference, it's a combo. It's a combination of the UI allied with an LLM and the terminal using CLI, right? So then we are using a lot of automations to build our integrations recently. And of course, then lately we go into the user interface, we check what was built, we run tests and all these kind of things. So then if I could just summarize, I would say a combo of everything together.
Okay. And yeah, I think that's where I'm just seeing some of the responses come in right now. That's where a lot of folks lie, right? Is maybe they do some work in their LLM, maybe they do some work in a terminal, maybe sometimes they are working through CLI, developer IDE. But I think a key piece here is really the flexibility. So how do you have a platform that supports you wherever you want to build? And that's really exactly what we're trying to achieve with our headless capabilities. All right, so we're going to start with why headless, what prompted this from a go-to-market perspective at Celigo. What is it? What do we mean by one platform, three different services? Then we're going to get into an actual quick demo of our CLI specifically. And then after that, we'll hear directly from Rodolfo from Bring IT, who you just met, and we'll actually discuss the use cases that he's seeing in the market for CLI, as well as their methodology behind realizing ROI. So I think you'll all find that very helpful and insightful. First, we'll talk a little bit about the shift that we're seeing in the market. And what we're seeing is you have different users throughout an organization. You have your more technical folks, your developers, they're writing code. a lot of times they now more than ever are staying within their environment, right? Whether that's a terminal, whether that is an AI tool like Claude Code that's becoming more and more relevant and pertinent. They want to stay oftentimes in their developer environment, and maybe they don't want to move to a browser or a separate application to build and manage their automations. And you also have your AI first teams. So I would consider myself an AI first user. They often sit at the line of business, could be in marketing, could be in finance, could be in sales. And these folks are using LLMs to accelerate their productivity for whatever their role is. And that could be a web version of Claude, it could be a web version of ChatGPT, whatever the LLM of choice is, Gemini. It could be different LLMs for different use cases. But the point is, these two personas have emerged in the AI era. And a lot of the times they're most efficient when they can stay within their current workflow. So again, for developers, that might mean the terminal. For AI first users, that might mean a web-based LLM. Now, we've responded to this by rolling out two core capabilities, and that is Celigo CLI and Celigo Platform MCP. What you'll see here is now there's sort of three different paths to experiencing the Celigo platform. And they're all built on top of our powerful set of REST APIs, which are really what allow this all to be possible. Our REST APIs don't expose a subset of the Celigo platform. It's actually exposing the full set of Celigo platform functionality. So everything you need from troubleshooting errors to building EDI-based patterns, building typical application integrations, troubleshooting, those are all exposed through our REST APIs. So what does that mean? That means through our traditional UI, you can build. You could also leverage Aura, which again is built on top of our APIs, and it's a natural language interface where from within our UI, you can prompt Aura to help you build and help you manage automations. There's also the CLI now. So the CLI is an NPM install into your directly into your terminal. And that allows developers to build integrations and automations without ever having to leave their terminal. And we'll get deeper into that in a bit. And there's also Platform MCP. So Platform MCP will plug directly into a web-based LLM. So AI first users can keep building and managing automations directly from their LLM client of choice. Again, whether that's Claude, Gemini, ChatGPT, etc. Now, one takeaway I want you to have here is that regardless of which one of these paths you go down, and it could be a combination of those paths, you're not losing any functionality. So you can experience the full Celigo platform from each one of these interfaces without having to switch tabs or go to the other one. And again, that's all made possible through this powerful REST API foundation that you see on the bottom. So first, the CLI. So who is this geared for? Again, this is developers, technical users who want to work directly from their IDEs and from their terminals. They come prepackaged with 25 plus skills. And what are skills? Skills are what make the coding assistant that you're using within your terminal or your CLI fluent in Celigo. And so that means firm understanding of how Celigo builds flows, how Celigo executes certain schemas, really transferring all of that tribal knowledge of the Celigo platform directly to the AI assistant so it knows and understands everything it needs contextually to be an effective builder and manager of automations. And that's going to greatly decrease the hallucinations as well. Now, this can actually all, a quick plug, be from a setup perspective, accessed through developer.celigo.com. So if you want to understand how to install CLI, it would be developer.celigo.com/CLI, and then the same /platform MCP would be to get the setup instructions for platform MCP. But for CLI, just so you can see quickly, you're going to add the CLI to your existing toolchain through a simple npm install. From there, you can build and configure, version and script, and run and monitor again, and the AI assistant's going to have full contextual awareness of how the Celigo platform works, so you can be as efficient as possible. So we'll go into a quick demo of what this looks like in practice.
The Celigo CLI puts the full power of the platform behind your command line. Build automations, manage flows, troubleshoot errors, all from the same window as your editor and your Git history. And it comes packaged with Celigo skills, domain knowledge about how the platform actually works, field schemas, workflow guides, common pitfalls, baked right in, so your AI coding assistant isn't guessing at Celigo's APIs or inventing field names that don't exist. First, create a Celigo personal access token, so that once the profile is connected to your terminal, the Celigo CLI will inherit your exact Celigo permissions. That means the terminal does not become a shortcut around governance. It becomes another authorized interface to the platform. Next, paste in your token and complete a simple npm installation. This will install the full Celigo CLI package in your terminal, including its commands and bundled Celigo skills. Imagine you need to build something. Instead of navigating through a user interface and clicking through a series of menus, you simply describe what you want in plain, natural language inside Cursor. And because Celigo skills teach your AI assistant how the platform works, while the authenticated CLI provides access to your Celigo environment, it can translate your intent into real Celigo assets using grounded platform guidance. Here we'll create a lookup cache containing all 50 US states and their abbreviations. All it takes is a simple conversational prompt inside Cursor, and the Celigo CLI does the rest, reaching out to Celigo and building the asset on your behalf. When we go back into our instance, the lookup cache is already there, created as we described it, with no manual configuration required. Managing your environment is just as direct. List your integrations, surface errors, retry failed runs, all from the command line, scriptable, pipeable, and automatable. Here we list integrations so we can fully understand our environment. Next, we can triage recent errors, understand what went wrong, and even assign them to the relevant stakeholders on our team, all without leaving the terminal. Celigo CLI brings integration work into the developer workflow so developers can work from wherever they work best uninterrupted. You can build, inspect, export, troubleshoot, and bring supported Celigo assets into Git-based, version-controlled workflows from the terminal, while Celigo continues to enforce the permissions and controls defined in the platform.
Okay, so I hope you enjoyed that quick demo of CLI. As you saw, just from natural language interactions, the user in a few minutes was able to build a lookup cache with all 50 states and their abbreviations. But then it wasn't just the building and flow generation piece. Because we've exposed all of the Celigo capabilities to our CLI and also to our platform MCP, the user was able to triage errors, understand what was wrong when a flow failed, and then assign that error, all without ever having to leave Cursor. So pretty cool. So that was our CLI, which again is geared more towards developers, anyone working in a terminal. Platform MCP is going to plug directly into your LLM. So when we think about all of these AI first users who are fluent in Claude, OpenAI, Gemini, you can simply hit the plus icon to add a connector. We are represented in some of the libraries. We just got added to the Anthropic library, so you can actually choose a pre-built connector for a platform MCP. Or again, at developer.celigo.com, there'll be instructions on how to add a custom connector. You're authenticating in through OAuth, and then instantly you're getting access to over 40 tools now that cover the full breadth of the Celigo platform. So again, whether you're working through CLI or platform MCP, whether it's a terminal or a web-based LLM, you're now able to, through natural language, build and manage automations from wherever you work best. And I think there's an interesting note here where every building from outside of the Celigo platform is a little daunting, I'm sure, to a lot of your security teams, because you might feel like governance doesn't extend outside of the Celigo platform. But rest assured that through authentication, like in platform MCP, you're OAuthing in, you are going to inherit the same exact permissions outside of the platform as you will inside of the platform. So whatever flows you have access to edit, whatever environments you have access to, whatever tiles you have access to in the Celigo platform, that's exactly what you'll have access to within CLI or within platform MCP as well. So you're gaining a lot of efficiency and you're not sacrificing anything in terms of governance. And then similar to building within our platform, there's complete auditability and tracking for any actions that are made through CLI or platform MCP as well. So you can quickly audit and understand who within your team made certain changes, whether that is to flows, integrations, imports, exports, etc. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that. That was a bit higher level on just why we rolled out headless, what our headless capabilities are, and just a short demo. Now we are going to have a quick chat with Rodolfo. If you could join us again. So Rodolfo is actually using Celigo CLI. Again, Bring IT is a very important partner for Celigo. Can you tell us a little bit, just to start off, how have you been using Celigo CLI in sort of your team's day-to-day workflow?
Sure thing, Chris. So a couple of months ago, we started evaluating how we could use AI just to leverage our day-to-day basis activities, right? And as I said at the very beginning, we are just providing services to our customers, and we are most likely developing integrations using Celigo, right? And then whenever Celigo has just released the CLI, we start deep diving into this, trying to understand how it works. And with this activity that we were just trying to leverage AI, we understood that we could plug CLI and use this through Claude. That is our LLM of preference, right? And then since that, we are doing and using this every single day for several different purposes. Since a very simple development where we go into our repository of templates and we just ask Claude to take one specific template for one specific flow and just install these into the customer base and make some adjustments or enhancements accordingly to the customer needs, right? Or also for troubleshooting errors for the customers that we provide support as well. So then this is core part of our day-to-day basis today. And then we are using for several different type of activities, right? For development, for sure, that is our core, but also for troubleshoot things as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so you mentioned it seems like the bulk of your use cases center around development, because you are from simple flows that might be templatized to complex flows. You're building those through natural language, but it's interesting also that you're using CLI for troubleshooting as well. If a flow errors out, it's quicker probably to get to the bottom of the issue via natural language as well.
Yeah, and the results are amazing, man. So I can give you some example. We were trying recently to create some connections, and then for any reason it was failing. And then we just gave some prompts to Claude saying, hey, I'm trying to create this connection and it's failing. So can you please help me out to understand what is failing and why it's failing, right? And then Claude was telling me that this was a kind of permission into the connection because it was for a Brazilian customer, and I was trying to mimic that same connection using Postman, and it was working, and in Celigo it was not working. And then Claude was telling me, no, but maybe this is a kind of limitation into that API that you guys are trying to configure the connection from, right? And maybe there is some regional limitations on that. So ask your customer just to add the Celigo IPs on their IP whitelist, and this should work. And I was just thinking, so maybe this doesn't make sense because I'm able to access this to Postman, right? And then I was just discussing this with a colleague, that is not living in Brazil. And I said, okay, can you please try to make a quick test and try to access the same collection from there? And we see if it's failing, so Claude is 100% correct, right? And he was doing the test and then it was failing. So then Claude was 100% correct because Claude was trying to do some tests directly into the Celigo platform, right? Which I was completely blind. And then I asked the customer just what the Celigo IP is into their whitelist, and then it started working completely. So it's really, really helpful in our daily basis, Chris.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I feel like that's a simple issue, but it might have taken a while to remediate, right? You might have tried a lot of different routes so that made your problem solving and your troubleshooting way more efficient.
Yeah, yeah. So you can imagine for every single troubleshooting scenario case that we have now, we're just going first and asking Claude, right? Through CLI, Claude is giving us some responses. And many of the cases, I can tell you more than 90% of the cases, is not only troubleshooting, but it's also correcting the issues, which is saving us a lot of time.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about savings and how you're thinking about this from an ROI perspective, because I know you've put together a pretty interesting framework. How are you thinking about CLI in terms of your return on investment and your overall efficiency slash cost savings?
Sure. One thing that we have done before really started using this was evaluating the ROI, right? Because of course, to releasing cloud access to everybody on the team has a cost for the company, right? So we had to understand how savings this would be in terms of time, right? To be able to ask for having those licenses for our resources, right? And then what we have done, we have taken some flows that we have developed manually using the UI, which we already have the number of hours that we have consumed for building those. And we try to mimic exactly the same flows using cloud allied with the CLI, right? And the results were like incredibly amazing. So what we could see is that this ROI is exponentially. So which means that the more complex the development could be, the higher is going to be the results that we get. And then the numbers is something around if it's a simple and not complex flow in a low complexity kind of manner. So the savings are around 20%, which means that, for example, if we are building a flow in a low complexity, we are not expending a lot of hours. And then the time that we expend in cloud to build the same flow is saving 20% of our time. So if we are building a medium complexity flow, so we can see that this number increases from 20% up to 40%, sometimes even 50%, depending on the case, right? But if we go into a really complex flow, we could see that we are saving 80% of the time. So there was some flows that we were manually building and we were spending like 20 hours. And then doing this through cloud, it was like 3-4 hours only. And it was amazing because what we can see is that all the heavy lift of building those flows, like creating scripts and lookups and all these kind of things, that takes a lot of time if we're doing on the AI. Cloud is doing really quickly, and the results are really great as well, right? So of course, that is not only about a matter of developing, right? So we have a lot of other initiatives here that we want to use cloud and CLI to automate as well. For example, testings, and then we have a very aggressive, let's say, plans for the AI that we are not even going to be giving instructions to cloud. We are going to be structuring specifications in a manner that we can just give the specifications to cloud, and cloud can directly go and develop the first approach of the flow, 100% automated. And then we are just going to be reviewing these and testing these and validating this. But the results and the ROI are amazing and increase.
Yeah, that's awesome. I swear I did not pay him to say that. So 80%, 80% ROI or 80% faster builds for complex flows is just an amazing stat. And I think it validates our way of thinking that meeting our customers and partners where they are is going to help them build and manage automations way more efficiently. Have you seen any shift when you're giving folks in your team this access, right? Access to CLI or access to platform MCP. Have you seen a shift in who can become a builder within the organization as a result of this?
Yes, 100%. I can tell for myself, right? I'm not an active developer. I'm leading the team, and whenever we need, so I just put my hands on, and I'm doing a lot of things that I could not be doing if I would be just using the user interface itself, right? But what I can see and what I can experience from my team is that whenever they get access into this cloud, they're giving us some really great feedback. Hey, I was just spending a lot of time doing some things, and when I started using cloud, it was amazingly reducing my workload and all these kind of things. And I can give you a lot of different like examples as experience. We were facing some issues recently with a customer, and then we had to build a fresh new flow to solve a problem that the customer had. And I was discussing with this person in our team, saying, maybe we can go into this direction and that direction. And maybe this is going to be a complex kind of flow to be built from the scratch, right? Why we don't try to do this from cloud, right? Just give some prompt, just give some outcome that is expected, right? And let's see what is going to be the result. And then yesterday I was having one-on-one with that same person, and he was telling me, hey man, I was able to build this 100% using cloud, and then it was really fast, and the result was like amazing. But this is really a game changer for us.
Yeah, and I think what that means is like your technical resources, I'm sure, are already strapped and very backlogged. And at least what we've seen with other customers is previously, like you kind of had to go through them. Now it's more streamlined where you could have a line of business technologist or an AI first user who can solve the problem before it even gets to the technical team, which just makes things more efficient. And another piece, maybe not as relevant on the partner side, but for our customers, if you think about someone at the line of business level, sometimes they're closer to the problem they're trying to solve, right? If it's a marketing related problem, no one knows that problem better than marketing ops. If it's an HR related problem, no one knows that problem better than the head of HR. So empowering them to be builders within Celigo also allows them to solve the problems that they have the most inherent knowledge about.
Yeah, yeah. And also, I could give you some other experience that I had recently as well. So I was dealing with a customer that we built some integrations for them. And then after deliver the project, we have built some good relationship, and we were having some good discussions about how they could improve the usage of Celigo, right? And I was explaining, this guy was a CFO, and I was explaining that how we are building things that we don't have to be developers anymore with this AI stuff, right? So any person can use and can build things if they are just creative. And I was just explaining how to connect with Claude, how to use CLI, right? And then he was just looking forward to build some dashboards from NetSuite, right? And then maybe 1 week after, he was just pinging me, hey, can I show you something that I built myself? And he himself, without having any technical background, just using CLI allied with cloud, he has connected into NetSuite, he has extracted data, and he has created some dashboards using Celigo, which was amazing. He was telling, hey, I don't rely anymore on any technical research, right? If I have something in my mind, I can go and build myself, and the outcomes are amazing. So then this is also for sure a game changer for our customers, right? And whenever we are playing this kind of pre-sales kind of role, right? Where we are doing all the assessment to the customers on what tools could be beneficial for them, right? And then we are explaining these kind of things that can be done. So it's a real game changer as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we've seen that example that you gave with the CFO. We've seen that internally with just all of the different functions that are no longer having to go through IT or having to go through a centralized organization. And yeah, it's super powerful just being able to democratize access to things like analytics or whatever workflows you need to build within the line of business. Being able to build that yourself is really important. How are you thinking about your future plans here? It sounds like the current state is already going pretty well, but I'm sure you have a roadmap around this.
Yes. Well, here at Bring IT, we have a dedicated team that is only for leverage AI, right? For improve our internal processes and also check how we can just give a better experience to our customers as well. But our target is that we are going to be fully automated with AI, right? And when we are talking about these Celigo integrations, we want to take like recordings from requirement gatherings, transform these into specifications using AI. So then this specification is going to be driving our developments. And then we want to automate the tests also using AI allied with the CLI. Documentation as well. We already have tested and we have seen that whenever the flow is built, so we just go into Claude and give, hey, Claude, please create a specification for me, or please create a test documentation for me about this integration, right? And also saving those new developments inside of our template repository. So I know that it's a little bit aggressive, but we want to be 100% AI driven.
And with that being AI driven, automating your specs, automating your build, maybe automating some of the management. We already talked a little bit about changing roles and how roles are evolving, but would that evolve your role as well to be a bit more focused on sort of the management and making sure that the agents are working correctly, like more of an oversight role? Or do you think that your role will stay the same with the advent of that change?
Yes. So I believe that all this AI stuff can be scary somehow, right? For some folks, right? Especially developers and more technical research. But being on this field for so many years, I don't believe that people is going to be 100% replaced, right? What we can get is that people can be delivering more with less, right? And then people can be focusing in some other vertents other than just completely be replaced, right? And we can focus people maybe in developing some products that is going to be helpful to our customers, right? With the time that they are saving using AI. Myself, for example, as a leader, I can just spend more time taking care about my resources, right? And thinking how we can just create a different kind of experience to the customers as well. But this is how I envision the future, right? But of course, it's true, and we have to say that people that is not thinking out of the box somehow, they are not going to be following this AI kind of wave, right? That is there on the market today.
Yeah. So it seems like more of a pivot from maybe like the menial work that is burdensome and difficult on a day-to-day basis to maybe like more strategic, forward-thinking visions, and you can like refocus your energy and your team's energy there.
Yes, they have lift energy. We can transfer 100% to the AI stuff, right? And then we can think out of the box to build something different somehow.
Okay, that's awesome. Does anyone have any questions? We'll give you a few minutes, but please drop them in the Q&A tab that you should see. We'll give you a few minutes there, and we'll actually go into the survey first and then touch on the QA. So first, this is just a quick survey that our team wanted to capture. So if you could respond, that would be awesome. The more data points, the better. Okay, great. Now into the Q&A. First question, can I use CLI along with the UI, or do I need to pick one? So fortunately, I mean, we can go back to that slide where it has the 3 paths. You don't have to pick one. You can pick a combination of the 3. You can pick 2 of the 3. It's really about flexibility and working from wherever you want to work. So you can work from the UI on some tasks. You can work from the CLI or platform MCP on others. You are not confined to one of them. And again, no matter where you're working from, you're going to inherit the same exact permissions and governance that you have within our platform. Which LLMs does platform MCP work with today? So pretty much every LLM that is MCP compatible, which is most that I am aware of. I would say our customers most commonly use Anthropic, OpenAI, as well as Gemini, but again, you're not confined by those. We do have, for Anthropic specifically, and we're working our way to the other providers, but we do have pre-built connectors to some of the directories. But either way, even if we don't have a pre-built connector, you're able to follow the steps on developer.celigo.com and create a custom connector, as long as the LLM service is MCP compatible. Then I have another question. Whatever the CLI or MCP is like companion for Celigo platform. And then it's another question on skills. So yes, it's a little bit, you can think of it as a companion for the Celigo platform. In reality, it's connecting into your Celigo account and giving either the terminal or the LLM context on how the Celigo platform works through skills and through tools, and allowing you to build from within that external UI. Again, whether it's an LLM or a terminal coding assistant, you're able to just type in natural language prompts like we showed in the demo, build me a lookup cache, and then that would be built directly in the platform, the Celigo platform, without ever having to leave the UI. So you can think of it as a companion. We call it headless connectivity because wherever you're working from, you're able to access the same powerful platform. Okay, I'll give this one to you, Rodolfo, but can we build complex processes through the CLI? Because I know you've done some complex workflows.
Yes, no, 100% we can. So I can give you some examples, right? So complex processes, we just built a flow that was intended to be creating inventory adjustments for one of our specific customers. And how the business process in the background was intended to be is that we would be capturing the actual inventory screenshot from the system, from the customer system, right? The source system. And we would compare with the actual NetSuite inventory. And if there is any difference, we should create one inventory adjustment that is equalizing the inventory in NetSuite versus the inventory from the source system, right? And there are lots of complexity on this, right? So the same item into multiple different locations. So different locations with multiple different subsidiaries. And we just gave this task to Claude, saying, hey, Claude, we have to develop this specific flow. So these are the inputs and these are the outputs. So please build this flow to us. And then like magic, it was completely built, right? And I just had to make some small adjustments, like creating some additional fields into the saved search that it was created, but man, it was like amazingly created. This is just an example of a very complex flow that we have built using this. But also we built something into the AI, pure AI space as well. There's another customer where we were building a POC where they were looking for some LLM, let's say, processing. They had a process where they were getting two different images. One is like a project, and the other one is the real picture after the project has been made. And they want to compare if the project that was completed, it's in accordance with the project that was planned, right? And we have originally built this flow on the UI a couple of months ago. And maybe 3 weeks ago, I just mimicked this using Claude as well to understand how that would be, right? And I just gave kind of same input to Claude saying, hey, I want you to build a flow that is going to be getting two different images. So image one, it's going to be a project image. Image two, it's going to be the real processes after the work being completed. And then I want you to call one LLM within the flow that is going to be doing this comparison, and it's going to be giving us a result. and a rate of confidence on if the work that was performed is in accordance with the project, right? And then the Cloud with the CLI was just building the flow with maybe 2 minutes, and the results was even better than compared to the one that we were building manually into the UI, right? So then basically the answer is yes, we can build whatever we want using this. And the results are sometimes even better if we are doing this manually.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I could speak from experience. We've actually used it on our own professional services team to implement very complex flows. So, and like Rodolfo mentioned, that's a lot of times where you're seeing the most ROI, right? Because it would be the most time when you're comparing the opportunity of cost of building it manually versus building it via CLI. Do we have any Git repo for the CLI and MCP for reference? Yeah, we do. So if you go to github.com/Celigo, there's an AI repo, and that should have all of the these skills that you would download as part of the npm install into your terminal. And then one more question before we close things out. Can I use Claude to interact with the Celigo MCP server? Yes, you absolutely can. So that's what it's meant for. That's what it's meant to do. You can connect through Claude Code. Oftentimes, you would be just installing the CLI. And again, that would come with the prepackaged skills. If you were using the web app for Claude, you could just connect directly to the MCP server and OAuth in. In either of those cases, you'd be able to get direct responses from the AI agent, and you'd be able to build and manage automations through natural language. All right. Well, thanks everyone for the engagement, for the questions. If you're interested in what you heard and you'd like to book a demo, you can just click the button at the top right of the screen or scan the QR code. We're always happy to help. Also, if you had any questions on anything we covered, you can shoot me an email. My email is chris.ferraro@celigo.com. Anyways, thanks again for joining. We always appreciate it. And we will see you on the next Celigo sessions. So thanks, everyone.